What's up? What's up? Hopefully you guys can hear me. I gotta do a motor replacement on the world fastest Nerf blaster that I have entered into the Guinness Book of World Records and is pending application verification. Excuse me, hold on. Yeah, so anyways, I made a couple of these blasters, one for my Uncle Dan and one for myself, and I've entered them into the Guinness Book of World Records for the fastest and furthest shooting Nerf blasters in the world. Excuse me. Anyways, after I applied, the waiting list is like, my goodness, I think it's like upwards 3 months. So I find out in March from what their website tells me, because all of my information's on there now. They said that in March is when I find out if they actually accept the application or not. So hopefully it goes through. Anyways, what I'm doing right now is I actually, the motors in these things, they run off of flywheels. Right here is the flywheels. When you hit the rev trigger, which is this part right here, it powers up these flywheels that basically, as they're spinning, the dart pusher pushes the foam dart through, and the flywheels quench the dart and spit it out the barrel. Well, they're electric motors like you would use in slot cars, electric slot cars, and they tend to burn out after hitting the rev trigger so many times and so many shots out of the blaster. So one motor is good, one motor is burnt out. I'm gonna replace this is the motor cage where the motors are held with the flywheels. These are the flywheels. I'm going to go ahead and replace the motor cage and both of the motors and put this new one in. So you guys can chill along for the replacement if you'd like. Just something to do that I should have done a while ago. I just thought it'd be cool to share with you guys. I hope everyone's having a good day, a blessed day, in the name of Jesus Christ. And I pray that everybody's families are doing good right now in all of these tumultuous times. And yeah, okay, let's get to work. See if I need a little more light here. And to any of the younger ones that are into this hobby of Geekazoid Nerf blaster modifying and building, which I initially got into when I needed to learn and teach myself small electronics repair and soldering. Looking up videos on how to solder, I came across Nerf blaster modifications, and I don't anybody that knows me from the past, like for birthdays and stuff like that, everyone gets little J a Nerf blaster, regardless if I was I don't know 14 or what 29 out of the Marines. I was still getting Nerf blasters from random people, and so I didn't know that you could modify them to such an extent because I hadn't been messing around with them for quite some years. And then when I found out about this model, which is called the Stryfe with a Y instead of an I, I found out the kids have gone crazy modifying these to the point where they have an aftermarket for them, because these motor cages from Nerf are usually they're plastic. They're made out of plastic like this. Well, there's a company called Worker that's coincided with another company called Yamix, and Yamix are the ones that make those crazy miniature engines and steam and gas powered engines like the size of your thumbnail that you see sometimes on the internet. They're the guys that are making these. So when you implement their technology into a simple plastic Nerf blaster, things get really, really interesting. And so anyways, back to a little trick and tip. One thing that will really screw up your job, young ones, that I had to learn the hard way about, is I got an electric screwdriver, which speeds up the process. But when you go in and you have to unscrew every single screw from the body, you don't want to start with a crazy amount of torque if you have an electric screwdriver, because the plastic is so weak on the post where these screws are screwed into, that if you zap it with an electric screwdriver before actually untorquing the screw head a little bit, it will completely de-thread and basically turn the screw post into, I don't know, it basically you will no longer be able to screw any of the screws back into a post, because if you zap it with the electric screwdriver, it literally rips the plastic threading up so fast that when you go to rethread a screw back in, there's nothing for it to bite onto. So you can make a cool, fully modified Nerf blaster like I did with another one, and then go to finish the job by putting it all together with the screws, right? And then come across one screw point where, as you're tightening, it just keeps on turning, and you're wondering, oh fudge, what's going on here? And you come to find out, like I did, that the screw has literally gone so through the post that it's shredded all of the threading, and then your job is, that's a repair that you don't want to do. That's all I gotta say. Anyways, back to this. We got all of the screws pretty much loose on the body. I try to keep them together because when you pop open the shells, the screws tend to just fly out everywhere. So if you're careful about it, they don't fly everywhere. You can keep all your work together. Otherwise, if you're looking for just one single screw, you can turn a 10-minute repair job into an hour repair job looking for that one screw on your living room carpet. Anyways, here we go. the one that I made my uncle Dan, that he gets to attempt the Guinness Book of World Records with. I told him that he gets to shoot it for the attempt. Him and I basically have twin blasters that I made for the both of us, but mine's all tricked out with this crazy paint job. He's got some accoutrements on it. The internals of both of our blasters are the same, but I got all this crazy stuff going on that my uncle's doesn't. His is just the regular body. But if I have time, I'd like to put a cool paint job on his for him. But these things, to get the record attempt, it's been so experimental with different motor, cage, flywheel, and all kinds of combinations that I don't want to get into to other builders to give them my secrets so they steal the record from me. But the way that my uncle's blaster is set up and everything's sealed up and ready to go for him to do the record attempt, I don't want to fudge with it. I don't want to open it up anymore. I don't want to do anything that could possibly do any harm to it before Guinness Book of World Records actually calls me back. So with that being said, this one that I've been messing around with and shooting my fellow Nerf blaster neighbors with, we've been playing around with this one so much around the garages and around the apartment complex that one of the motors is blown out, and that's why we're here. So instead of doing it by myself, since I told you guys now I'll be speaking on the channel, a lot of new changes, I guess. And so if this is something that interests you, you guys can totally just chill out with me. If you're only here on my channel for Jesus and Jesus only, that's fine too. You guys can check out my other videos, which I will be up and about doing later. But right now, like I said, this is something that I had to do a while ago, tend to a while ago, and I just haven't had the time with other work and stuff. Alright. Hopefully, that's all the freaking screws loose enough for me to pop open the shell. And you guys, whoever's watching, I don't know because I can't see the chat right now. You guys get to see what this thing looks like inside. Okie dokie. So, what I was talking about with the post threads, if you see right there, that's one of the posts. There's another post right there. The tiny little micro screws go into those posts. So if you zap them with an electric screwdriver just to be fast with the job, the torque from an electric screwdriver will literally blow those plastic threads completely out. So when you go to put a new screw back in or replace the original screw, um, it'll just keep on turning and it won't tighten the actual body of the shells together, and you'll be in big trouble. So don't do that, kids, like I did. Okay, here we go. It's good to take off these. These are hooks for like a sling. It's good to take them off even though not necessary, just so it kind of gets out of your way of your workspace, and it doesn't, when you put the shells together, sometimes they're not of alignment because of these things. So they're kind of fragile, and you got to be careful, otherwise you can chip the plastic and all kinds of stuff. So here we go. All this dust that you guys see is dust from the dart head. So as you hit the rev trigger, which is this one down below, you can hit the rev trigger. It charges all the electronics and gets these flywheels spinning, one in clockwise, one in counterclockwise. And while they're both spinning, the dart comes on through and gets quenched by the flywheels and gets zapped through the barrel. But these things are so powerful. This setup is so powerful that it munches on the dart head, and it shears it off and powderizes them. Okay, that's how fast and quick they get. So in all of that, you get a buildup of just dart dust, and it goes into the motors, and sometimes that's what leads to the burnouts. Okay, and that's why we're here replacing this. Also, too, with both my uncles and this one, I string along some LED lights inside, and then in this middle section, I put in UV lights. So when you put in a dart that has a glow in the dark body, when you hit the rev trigger, the UV lights go on, and they charge the glow of the glow in the dark dart body. So when you're shooting them at nighttime over the train tracks, like me and my 30-year-old something neighbors do, because we act like children, they look like Star Wars tracer rounds coming out. It's really fun to watch and play around with. So much fun that I got older friends that are twice my age at the local coin shop where I sell some of my coin rings at. They want 4 from me. So the oldest Nerf blaster customer that I have on the books right now, he's a 70-year-old born again Christian man. And I don't know what to say. Boys will have fun, and so will the girls. And fun needs to be had during times like this. You know, we all have to keep level-headed, and we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And there's been a lot of crazy stuff in the world going on, but it's good, as we all know, to stay in some hobby or something that can keep you busy when you're not doing your work, that actually brings you a little fun and fulfillment. You know, can't just be doom and gloom all day. So yeah, here we go. Now I got to remove these 4 screws, and then the cage comes out. I got my soldering iron ready to go. gonna go ahead and actually get some flux going on this thing. So I'm gonna need the soldering iron in a bit because after I remove the motors, I have to desolder the leads from the electrical in order to put in the new motor cage. And when you take out the motor cage, it's good to go in a cross pattern, just like you would be doing a tire change on your car. So the torque from the screws don't screw up the screw posts like we talked about earlier. Otherwise it can shred the threads. Oh, and if there's any Nerfers out there that are inquisitive to know how fast and how far that these blasters are going, so my neighbors and I have my neighbors as witness, we measured the longest shot with a with measuring tape, 25-foot measuring tape. We put it in strands and sections, and with markers all the way down the street. So the longest, supposedly, that's floating around on the internet, the longest Nerf dart shot is like, I don't know, 125 to 150 feet. When we shoot them over our little train tracks here, the train parallels my street and Pacific Coast Highway. It goes the darts go way across the street, and can reach out and touch someone that's waiting at the bus stop. Okay, so that's like, I think we're at about 250 feet. So if there's any Nerf challengers out there that think that they got a farther shooting Nerf blaster than 250 feet on record with witness and with camera footage, please, I challenge you back. As far as the fastest, they like to be recorded, the builders and modifiers on all of these Nerf forums online and stuff like that, which I don't take part in. I just browse and peruse them to get ideas and such and inspiration from all the cool builds they do. But in the little Nerfer community, for single stage, which is running just one motor cage, dual stage is running 2, 3, 4, 5. Kids get crazy and just keep stacking these motor cages. Well, for single stage, I claim this to be the fastest. And when you buy them off the shelf from, your local what have you, Walmart or Target or whatever, at all the Big Brother and Associates shops, these things come out of the box. The Nerf Stryfe shoots at, I think, 60 to 70 FPS, feet per second. Okay, 60 to 70. If you get a good one, out of the box, the Nerf Stryfe, this thing, what this body's based on, it could go upwards 80 feet per second. Okay, I've seen them go that fast. And there's a chrono. There's a measuring device that attaches to the front barrel of these blasters that has a digital readout to actually show you how fast that you are shooting. And so I've seen them out of the box shoot as high as 80 feet per second, and a good builder can get them to go with these aftermarket parts upwards 160 feet per second, right? I'm letting y'all know that the fastest shot that I have recorded on this, and it's consistent. It's an average. It's not just one for a fluke. The average that this sucker is shooting is 450 feet per second. So if there's anybody else that wants to challenge me with their single stage, come on, bring your challenge. Alright, let's pop this sucker out. Now I got some liquid rubber, liquid tape. It's like electrical tape in liquid rubber form that I have to mend off of the nodes from the motors. Otherwise, my soldering iron is gonna make a gooey mess out of all of that. I gotta get some light in here too, as well. Aha! So, this is what happened. The motor still good. However, defect, the post broke off. So it wasn't the motor. It wasn't the motor burning out, which, like I said, sometimes they do from just hitting the rev trigger too often. But the post, probably just due to the torque and vibration, it sheared itself off. So this motor and this cage is gonna have to come out anyways. This piece right here is called the MOSFET system. Once you guys start getting, I'm obviously talking to the Nerfers out there. Once you start getting crazy into the modifications, these motors run on such high amperage that you need an extra capacitor in order to dissipate the heat. Otherwise, it'll completely fry the system and burn out your switches and everything. So these motors are so powerful. They're I don't want to give up the numbers and let you guys know exactly what setup I'm running, because it took a lot of experimentation, a lot of trial and error, a lot of hard sleepless nights. But from this video, whoever is savvy to Nerf modifications, they're gonna know what I'm running just by watching this video. But with that being said, I'm still not gonna tell you guys what I'm running, just like a drag racer is not gonna pop open the hood to his car and show the other drag racer, oh yeah, I got a nitrous system, I got turbo, I got supercharger. No, they're just gonna go and they're gonna challenge each other to a drag race, and then after that they'll talk. So with all that being said, I'm still waiting. Excuse me. I'm still waiting on the Guinness Book of World Records pending application. So I'd still like to get these into the record books before somebody replicates and one ups me, like we always see in life, whether it be basketball, football, or any other sport. There's always the OG against the rookie, right? The new kid on the block that's always hot to trot against that old Obi-Wan. Well, I'd be that old Obi-Wan, and all those young Nerfers out there be the little Luke Skywalkers. So all you Luke Skywalkers, don't be stealing Obi-Wan's technology without... Oh, it's already too late. You guys have seen the... This is live, so you guys are already stealing my ideas. But if you want to go ahead and put in the application too, you'd have to wait 12 weeks after me. So, aha. Okay, let's get all this cleared out best that we can. Oh, if anybody's wondering how long the paint job took, it took a long time. That's all I gotta say. But it was all well worth it in the end. Okay. Now I'm going to take the soldering iron and try to desolder these posts or these terminals. Need to raise the heat on this sucker. There we go. It's like electronic surgery. And once again, what really got me into this wasn't me wanting to just play around with Nerf blasters, even though at 37, I don't care how old you are, I still think it's cool. But I initially got into this hobby trying to teach myself how to do solder repair. Because I know a little bit of welding and stuff being around my dad's auto body shop and the Marines. I was with the truck company. And I was a driver, but I was always around with the mechanics that had to repair the trucks that got blown up when we go drive them down the streets with bombs on them. And so, you know, I learned little things here in the way of automotive. And I do have an automotive degree. However, I never learned soldering in between. Like my auto electronics class in college, we went over soldering for like not even an hour, and that was it, you know? So I had to actually learn how to properly keep connections together. And though I say that ironically as I'm fixing my connections I have made, this one ain't my fault because that's a factory defect. The post just broke off. Okay. Now, you see how the screws are sticking to these things? There's rare earth. Oh no. I already gave away some top secret information. There's rare earth magnets in these motors. They're so powerful. And anything that's of any type of metallic just gets sucked to these things like a freaking like a tractor beam. So get some of these screws out of the way, but still not drop them onto the living room carpet, or I'd be searching for them for an hour. I'm gonna have to go ahead and heat up these posts, and then what I'm doing here is called tinning them. So I'm putting flux on the post to get some solder on them first, and then once I do that, it helps with the fusion to these soldering points. And then right here, I'm also going to take some more liquid flux, and flux helps the flow of your solder when you're soldering. And if you don't have it, usually the solder won't bond to the metal. You also want to tin the tip of the soldering iron, which I didn't do first that I should have. And when the solder sets too, another tip is the fact that you want it to when it finally cools down, you want it to cool down with the shininess or a sheen to it. If it's cloudy um, at the terminal, that's usually because there's a bit of oxygen that's encapsulated into your soldering joints, and then that means that will lead to a not as good of an electrical connection to whatever you're trying to um, whatever application you're using. If you're running 12 volts of electricity and these soldering points aren't good connections, um, then the system might only get 11 volts or such. It would get less current, less amperage, thus less power, less performance. Okay. Jeez Louise, this one's gonna be tough. See, now this one, I gotta remove the old post that broke off right here. It's still entrapped into this soldering joint right here. So I gotta so gently try to get it out. There it is right there. This brass right here is just to clean the soldering iron. Okay, let's see here. These tips, I'm going to put a little more solder onto them because when we remove them, it left some solder on the old motor cage. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here comes the semi-tricky part. See these? You got red and then red. They have to go opposing of each other. Okay? If you wire them backwards, like some of us have in trial and error, when you hit the rev trigger, the flywheel spinning backwards would lead to basically your dart getting crunched in there and causing a fiery, electronic, foamy messiness of disaster. So it's very good to make sure to test and make sure your blaster is not firing backwards before you put it all together. Otherwise, it's not good. It will also, in practice and in trial and error, when that happens, if you wire them backwards, the flywheels will get so jammed up with the torque that it will burn out the motors instantaneously. Alright, here we go. Now, I gotta remember white towards this end, or is it red towards this end? Which I always forget. And each build is different. Sometimes you can run the motors with the red dots starting over on this side, but then you have to cross-reference on your wires here. We're just gonna go for it. I think red's on this side, white's on that side. Yeah. Or maybe not. Hold on. I'm gonna check my uncle's blaster. I'm already traumatizing myself and thinking I'm gonna wire it backwards. Here is my uncle's, and this is that digital display with the chrono that actually shows you how fast you can fire FPS. So I'm cross-referencing, checking here through the little sight window that I've created to make sure that this one doesn't get wired backwards. Give me a second here. Yeah, so I'm back. Thank you, Jesus. If I didn't check that, I was planning to wire this backwards. So, thank God I cross-reference checked on my uncle's blaster. The white goes over here, not the red. Okay. Fudge. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. This is also the difficult part. I got these things called, they're called helping hands, and they do help. But in this position, since all the wires are inside of the blaster as it is, it ain't gonna do me much good. Because you can see at these angles that I have to work at. Alright, I'm gonna get a little more flux going on too. Retinning the soldering iron tip. If you don't remember to do this, like I always am neglectful to do, it does absolutely affect how the soldering turns out. Also, you get into this hobby, it's good to have a dual range temperature on your soldering iron. Like it was up on to 400 earlier to remove the joints or the terminals from the old solder, but that's too hot to reconnect. Everybody has a different technique and likes to run different temperatures, but when I resolder, I like to go around 200 to 250 degrees Celsius. If I go anything higher, usually it starts bubbling up at the solder joint before I can even bond the two connections together. Okay, then also too, you want to reapply some of that flux again. You want to let it flow over wherever you're working at, and kind of just let it liquefy into a nice crystal ball for you. Excuse me. If you don't and you keep fiddling with it, it's just a matter of time before the wire gets so hot it starts burning your fingers or whatever that is holding on to it. If you're using helping hands, it might not burn your fingers, but at the same time, it's gonna just eventually liquefy more and more to the point where it starts spilling solder everywhere. Now, if there's any solder that makes a connection from these terminal posts to the actual body of the motors, it short circuits them, it fries the whole system, and you gotta start all over again. and it gets grueling, and it can get expensive, and sometimes it's not fun when you don't want to be repairing them, when you want to be playing around with your buddies with them. So yeah, do the job as well as you possibly can the first time, of course, so you don't have to be constantly repairing them as often, as opposed to enjoying them. Now this one I know is probably going to burn my finger, so I'm going to take some pliers real quick. Alright, so that one's on, but not the way that I would want it to be. This one's good, this one looks a little cruddy. But, like I said, with the angles I'm working at, it's not that easy. I'm going to cut some of that silicone wire off. I'm going to try to quickly lay some more flux onto the top there. If you do this and you're not quick about it, it'll just immediately liquefy and unpop the wire from it. So you got to be quick with it and just get a nice layer going on. Boom. And then get out. There. See how they're both shiny? That's what you want. If it's cloudy, like I said before, that usually means that it's not a good joint connection, and you might have oxygen encapsulated in there, which will lead to less power, less current going through your connections, which thus means less performance. And that is what we're all about up in here, is a performance. Performance first, aesthetics second. If you guys, whoever is still chilling with me on this transmission, oh, forgot flux. I got something really cool about this blaster that I will show you guys that's actually on the other side. Once I flip it over, you guys will trip out. This thing, on the other side, on the exterior, I won't go too heavy into it, but this thing has Wi-Fi, can make cell phone calls, has a radio. You'll see all that on the other side once I get done with it and flip the body of it. Another thing that I hadn't mentioned yet, even though I'm no soldering professional here, like I said, I'm self-taught off the freaking internet. When you go into solder, you want to stick the iron tip onto the area that you're soldering on. You want to heat that point up. At the same time, you want to heat the point of the wire. So if you could find somewhere to locate your soldering iron to touch both connections at the same time while heating them and letting the flux flow, that's the sweet spot. Now, do I have any certifications on how to solder? Nope. Am I a professional? Nope. Am I still learning electronics? Absolutely. So, these are just tips. I don't claim to be your teacher, just your buddy. Hopefully, we're still rolling. I don't even know if we're still rolling. My connection has been just in and out, and then when the connection goes out, when the connection goes out, then the stream gets interrupted, but hopefully we're still rolling. I can't really check right now, as I'm in the surgical's room right now, in the Nerf ER emergency room. Okay, guys. All looks good. All the connections look nice and tight. I pray to Jesus I didn't wire them backwards after checking my Uncle Dan's blaster. Now we'll put on a bit of this stuff, the liquid, like I said, it's electrical tape in liquid form, and it is nice as a insulator to your electronic terminals, but it is ever so gooey and not so fun to work with to get all over your fingers. And you kind of got to paint it on too, which is not that fun because it has a mind of its own, like you're playing with kids' slime here. So if you don't set it the right way and you use too much, it just turns into a gobbly mess everywhere. And then you gotta wait for it to dry to peel it off. Otherwise, you just end up smearing it all over like black tar. So this stuff is awesome if you have the patience to work with it. I'm a man of very little patience, so I know it's a necessity for the job, thus I use it. Doesn't mean I have fun using it. Does it teach me how to be patient? I suppose. I hope so. But like I said, sometimes I don't have the patience for this stuff. Because if you just barely nick it or whatever, and then it smears the liquid everywhere, oh my goodness. Wait 20 minutes for it to dry just to peel it off. Oh, no, thank you. Anyways, looks like we made it on this one. Looks like it didn't smear. We give it a little bit of time to flash over. I'm going to go get my coffee from the Chevy Trail Boss. I'm going to go warm it up in the microwave while this is drying. If there's anybody in the chat, chill out, have a good time, talk amongst yourselves. If you're here chilling with me, thanks. If this is lame to you and you're only here for my channel for Jesus, that's fine too. This is just a hobby I'm sharing with you guys while I get on with my day. So I will be right back. I'm going to let all this continue running. If the live stream is running, I'm going to go get my coffee from my truck. And then hopefully all the liquid electrical tape will be dry. I'll set the motor cage back in. I'll rescrew the shell back onto the body. I'll flip it over to show you guys what I'm talking about with the Wi-Fi, with the telephone, with it making calls. It's crazy. I'll be back. hopefully that liquid electrical tape should be almost dry. Yep, cool. Oh, this one's still a little wet, but by the time the coffee's done warming up in the microwave, we'll be ready to go. Solder, iron, I don't think I need any more. I can shut it off. What's another cool tip and trick? I think I initially bought a soldering iron off the internet, and I tried to find a decent one with the money that I had, and the one that I got was highly rated, but it didn't have an on-off switch. Thus, if I had it plugged into the wall and I walked away and neglected it, very dangerous. So this one I found with an on-off switch, and they're harder to find, but they're not hard to find. So I say it would be in your best interest, if you're getting into the hobby, to find one with an on-off switch. You could find the ones floating around the internet without the switch for about 10-15 bucks. The ones with the on-off switch are like 18 to 20 bucks. You know what I'm saying? So it's worth it. If you always have to have it plugged into the wall, excuse me. If you always gotta have it plugged into the wall and you're busy doing all kinds of other stuff, like I usually am as the little craftsman that is my day job, then geez, even though I'm a former fireman, I can be neglectful about fire safety. And like I said, I could run out to the garage, work on something else that I have to tend to on an impulse, and then I leave the soldering iron on, hooked to the wall with no on-off switch. Bad juju, guys. So if you can find one with an on-off switch for a few bucks more, I think it's worth it. Alright, here we go. Now we're going to go ahead, excuse me, we're going to go ahead and put the motor cage back into the body. This is another pro tip, Nerf building. When I went ahead and flipped the motor cage out, it had the 4 screws in there. The difference between the motor cage screws and screws to the body is a difference in length of like not even a millimeter. Okay, so the motor screws, if you ever drop them next to the body screws, you'll notice the difference by the motor screws will always be ever so much longer. So right there, I know I have 3 motor screws and 1 screw body. So I'm still missing a motor screw somewhere. That's why it's always important. Oh, might be this one. It's always important to try to keep no, it's another body screw. It's important to try to keep them together as much as possible. And thankfully, for me, I've been experimenting with these and, like I said, going after the world record, that I have enough parts in the Nerf junkyard that a missing screw ain't a problem right now. But just starting off, oh my goodness, like I told you guys, if you don't have a parts surplus, then it becomes a pain in the neck and can really, really be frustrating and screw up your job. That's like finishing a classic car, okay, building a classic car, and then whoops, we're missing a tail light, guys. You know, so it's not the greatest feeling. But you're responsible for it, right? So as the builder, stay on top of your stuff. Okay, so there's the four motor screws, the longer ones. The liquid electrical tape seems to be pretty dry. We are going to go ahead and gently put into the motor cage, back into the Stryfe body. That's another body screw. So when I go in with these guys, I'm just gonna start them very gently, otherwise they'll cross thread and strip and blow the threads like we talked about. So I'm just gonna set them and just give them a few initial turns to get them in there. And then once I know that they've actually fallen into the groove per se, then I'll go ahead and zap them with the electrical screwdriver. But really, as much help as the electrical screwdriver is in cutting labor time, like I said, it's like a katana sword. You got to be careful with it, otherwise you'll blow through your work, and it'll slice and dice up your work to the point where you can't recover from it. Now see, this screw right here is giving me trouble for whatever reason, so I gotta be gentle with it, otherwise it'll cross thread. It's the only one too that doesn't want to go in out of these. And now when I look through, I could see that the hole is just ever so not aligned, and if I kept wrenching on it, oh, it would not be good. Then that's how the stripping of threads happen. And you guys also have to take in consideration too, as geekazoidal as it is, there's so much time and labor into this thing now with the paint and the upgraded electronics and everything like that. If I were to screw up that one post, that's literally my little Michelangelo paint job and artwork completely ruined, because it would never be the same again. There we go. Now it's finally going in like it's supposed to. And I'm just using finger pressure right now, guys. See, if I were to go ahead and just get my whole body weight on it and torque into it, oh, not good. And I've seen guys do it, that's what I'm saying. I've seen really good builders do it, and you can't, otherwise it'll strip it. Now, while I was talking and ranting, I forgot a step. Now I gotta back these all out. I'm gonna keep them somewhat threaded onto the posts because I got them on there now, but gotta put the barrel on. So I'm gonna just ever so slightly lift this up, even though they're on. I might have, yeah. Sometimes you can shimmy it in, and sometimes you gotta remove the whole freaking motor cage. But what really gets you is the barrel tube right here. It's press fitted in, and it gets in the way. But then once you line up the posts to the holes, then you're good to go. And remember this is the little sling point, and the knurled part always goes towards the front. If you flip it, it'll lock into the post, and you can put the other shell body on, but what will happen is you'll get a pressure gap open right here on the top, and then when you go to wrenching your screws on top, you won't know what the fudge is going on, and as it gets tighter, things are going to start cracking, and yeah. So, knurled, always to the front. Okay, now I got to reattempt these motor cage screws. This one's already going in crooked again, so I got to be careful with it. Since this is an aftermarket cage, and it's not from the mother manufacturer, Hasbro Nerf. It's from a company from Hong Kong called Worker. Sometimes, the molds and everything are like aftermarket parts to a car. They're not an exact fit. Thus, you got to be very, very careful. Like I keep reiterating. We got battery low. So I gotta, give me a second, guys. I gotta plug in my extra external battery pack to the cell phone that I'm recording off of. Otherwise, it's just gonna cancel the transmission. Stand by, guys. Plugging in the charger. All right. Charger is connected. Oh, jeez Louise, that's one motor cage screw is holding me up. Let me try this. There we go. So by lifting the motor cage body up just like a millimeter to get the holes lined up to the post, I was able to get that motor cage screw started. So now, if I wanted to be a hotshot MacGyver, now I can go ahead and hit my electrical screwdriver button. But when I do, and as I save time with labor by using it, I'm also feathering the trigger, and I'm not going ham on it. Okay? And I'm not going all the way down. I will let it go about 75% of the way, and then I'm finishing by hand. And I'm also going cross thread again. This is all very important, guys, because if you don't, then not only can the thread strip, but sometimes the plastic is so fragile, the post will just crack, and then boop, you're done. The whole job is out the window. Okay, so we all good to go. New motors, new motor cage, all wired up. Now, I'm going to do a battery test. So, now, I'll go ahead and, while I still have the other shell half off of the body, and I can see the internals going, I'm going to hook up the battery. And I'm going to do a test shot right here in my kitchen to see if the dart will fly through. You guys can actually see the engineering of it all. So, rev trigger, I'm going to give it a squeeze. Should light up the LEDs, which I need to make sure are not in the dart feed way. Hold on, give me a second here. Yeah, these wires, the dart, this is the dart pusher. When you hit the rev trigger and pull the dart trigger, it operates this mechanism, sending the pusher rod forward, thus sending the dart through the motor cage and flywheels, right? So, like I said, if these wires are in the way, it'll can't your darts and jam up and do all kinds of fun stuff you don't want to get into. So here is a voltage meter that I got hooked up. So once we hit the rev trigger, this will light up, give me the voltage on this battery, and it will also electrify everything. We're going to go ahead and do a test run. Now, before I do, this thing screams. And I know I'm off of my cell phone cam right now, so I'm warning you guys as far as audibles, okay? I do not want to boom into anybody's ears, but this thing is going to scream like a banshee, okay? So, forewarning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, everything seems to be in good order. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just feed a dart through and see if we are kosher. Oh, yeah. We kosher on that one. That's the sound of 450 feet per second, world records. Guinness Book of World Records, fastest foam dart shooter. That's it right here, ladies and gentlemen. Gotta have fun during the apocalypto, guys. Otherwise, idle hands will get you in trouble. So, have fun and be kind to each other, right? So, we go ahead and put on the other half of the body. Looks like we're all good to go with the repairs. Bada bing, bada boom. Let me go ahead and clean up some of this. Look at all that dart dust, guys. Like I said, it just shreds the darts. So every so often they need tune-ups. Okay. Now for anybody that's still with me on this Geekazoid adventure, like I said, I'm going to be flipping over the body after I'm done screwing everything into position, and you guys are going to see what I'm talking about with the extra special mojo with this stuff. Also, too, want to be careful up in here because there's a metal pin that runs. This is the dart jam clearing door. You pop this open to clear out any jams. That metal rod, if it's not lined up with the two holes in the post inside of the shell, they can crack and lead to all kinds of misalignment. So be careful up here. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the battery real quick so it gives me more space to work. Okay, all this too, I cut out and I poured in clear epoxy so you can actually see all the internals going when it's firing. So now we'll go ahead and put in all of the screws. Being careful not to cross thread anything. And I'm only putting them in a few threads at a time, just so I can get good alignment on the entire body or shell. Because if you tighten one on one end, it might splay the holes from alignment on the other end. Thus, when you go to tighten down the other side, it will lead to strip screw posts. There are two unique screws too on this model, and that is very, very short screws in comparison to the regular chassis screws. You can notice them once, I mean, I know it's probably hard to see on my cell phone cam, but you can notice them once you take them out. Those two short screws go up on this top rail. I'm going to put those in right now since I got them in my sights. So I don't need to worry about them later. Alright guys, all of the screws are in. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten. And I'm jumping around side to side, not in any particular pattern, but I am trying to displace the weight of the screws to the screw post as best as possible. Alright guys, almost done, and then I'm going to show you guys the fun stuff on the other side of the blaster after we put the battery in. And all you younger cats, younger Nerfers out there, don't be stealing all my cool freaking ideas that I get from the Holy Spirit, okay? Because I asked the Holy Spirit to help me build this, and I'm pretty sure that he did, because this is cooler than anything I could possibly make, okay? So when you guys take my ideas and steal my ideas, you're not just stealing from me, even though, excuse me, every man emulates another man one way or another. We all copy each other one way or another, whether it's style or whatever. So, I ain't gonna be too mad. Check out this cool stuff, guys. First, I gotta shimmy in this RC battery. Usually it's only double A's that go in here, but that's not enough voltage. That's not enough power for the world's fastest Nerf blaster. So we had to upgrade to the good battery. The same ones that they power up the freaking drones with. Okay. It's always a nice pain in the rear to shimmy in the wires and not get them in the way of the pusher as well as the battery cover door. It's always a nice dance you gotta play with the wires because, like I said, this isn't supposed to be like this. This is making a Dr. Jekyll out of a Mr. Hyde. This is Frankenstein stuff right here, out of plastic. That's why the kids love it, because it's you know, it's fun, small electronics repair education as well as a little engineering and you know, just like Legos teaches kids how to be ingenuitive, right? How to use their ingenuity rather than Facebook and TikTok and all that fun stuff. So, how the heck am I going to get these wires in here? Oh my goodness. You got to be careful too, because these wires are so fragile that if you do too many twists and too many turns, they're gonna you're gonna screw up and wear away the wire to the point where you can break a connection. So, thinking about this now, I think I'm gonna go like this. No, not gonna go like that. Maybe I can bring this one over. And for those wondering, like, well, why doesn't Jay have this down pat as far as putting the battery in? Well, I got multiple batteries of different sizes for different blasters, so each one's its own unique little dance to get them in there, because they all have different dimensions to the actual battery themselves. Some are thicker, some are skinnier. Maybe if I get this sucker in first. Okay. Then, I do remember on this one, I did a little trick where I took the extra leads and I tucked them in. Now I remember. Tucked them in like that. These are for extra voltage alarm or to read voltage off of it. But since we have the voltage meter up in here, it's not necessary. So I can tuck it away. Boy. Then, well, maybe I try to fit this in like I said first. Okay. Then I can go up in here like this. Okay. Then this can get all tucked in there like that, and I'm going to put the cover, the battery cover on right now. Was if Blade Runner had a son, If Blade Runner had a son, a toy blaster, what would that toy blaster, the son of Blade Runner, look like? Well, I'm pretty sure it'd look something like this. Okay, so for the grand finale surprise, this thing has its own telecommunicator I built in. It has Wi-Fi. I can play YouTube off of it. I don't want to show anybody's numbers, but I got my full contact list. I can make phone calls from it. It's got its own SIM card. I don't need an extra phone to hook up and link to this like the Bluetooth phones that you guys buy off of Apple and Android, where they send you, or they they build a Bluetooth phone that needs to be linked to another device in order to work. This is a standalone telecommunicating system where, like I said, I could play music, I could run Wi-Fi. Right now, it's telling us the time, and also YouTube video. Let's see if we can get. I'm not connected to Wi-Fi as it is, but to prove to you guys that it does have Wi-Fi, we go into settings. We go into connect Wi-Fi. Boom. There we go. There's all the networks. Now it's actually, it's connecting to a network. I forgot that I have my home network hooked up. So since now we are hooked up to the internet, it's actually vibrating and getting all of its YouTube feeds in. And, wow. Okay, I haven't checked these in a while. But as you can see, guys, it's going ahead and giving me my my YouTube feed. Let's go ahead and try to play a video. And if any kiddos out there do decide to copy me, which is an inevitability, if you give any credit, you tell them that a man that said he worked with the Holy Ghost to build this, that's where the credit's due. Don't tell them that some crazy Doc Brown dude from Back to the Future showed you on the internet. Tell them that you got the idea from a crazy man that says he works with the Holy Ghost. Okay? And when you get to know him, you can build all kinds of cool stuff too. You just gotta believe in him. Believing in him, and not believing he's a fairy tale, like all the men of this world like to tell the youth. I'm telling you as a man that's traveled this earth in so many different directions with the Marines, with the firemen, with other preachers. I'm letting you guys know that Jesus Christ is real. His Holy Spirit is real. He loves you very much, and you got to have faith in order for it all to work out. Otherwise, if you don't have faith, then your relationship with him goes right out the window. So with all that being said, try to play a little video here to give you guys a little idea of how cool this thing is. Here, fast forward. There we go. Then I even got windows up here, just like the one that I made my uncle. So if motors start burning out or a screw gets loose from torque and vibration, I can check it in here, and it's cool to see them all light up and shoot. Alright guys, thanks for chilling with me. I love all y'all. God bless in the name of Jesus Christ. I'm out.